Hello and welcome to DDIF. My name is Daryl and my drumming is fine. Daryl's drumming, you get it. This is the program where I talk to professional drummers about how they got into the field, what keeps them motivated in their practice and in their performances, how they overcome obstacles throughout their careers, and just generally their love of the instrument that we all love, the drums. My first episode today is with the fantastic, not just drummer, but also human being, Ryan van Poederooyen. He is most famously known for his work with the Devin Townsend Project and Devin Townsend Band. He also has another band called Immonolith, which is also just killer. He also is a motivational speaker. He also is an excellent drum teacher. He also is playing various session work and various touring gigs. The man is very busy. And he took some time out to speak with me about this instrument, the drums, and our love of it. And before we get to the interview, I just have to send in a quick apology to Ryan because of Zoom or the Wi-Fi, probably the Wi-Fi, and probably my Wi-Fi. We had a couple hiccups. I did my best to edit them out, but one answer that you will see, it seems a bit disjointed. He is answering the question how he first got introduced to the drums. So, without any further ado, here is my conversation with the fantastic drummer and excellent human being, Ryan van Poederooyen. And remember, drums are great, music is life, and if you know a drummer, go give him a hug. Thanks.
I'm doing great, man. Just I have a few sessions that are going on and did some work on that before this interview. And yeah, it's shaping up to be a nice busy year for myself. So it's been a good morning. Have my coffee. It's beautiful weather in Vancouver. It's awesome.
So you've already before 9 a.m. been up, been working on session work, been drumming already this morning on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's the thing. Well, you know what? I believe I don't know, there's a lot of people out there who say, when you get up early and you start your day and you have a routine that you stick to and it just becomes a part of your life and it's not work, it's just what you do. Life seems to work out for people like that, and people get things done. Their careers are fruitful and they always see their things through their process, everything, right? So I I've adopted that, and it's worked out really well for me. And I don't know, it's a great way to start the morning when you're doing something that you love. So I always get up, have my coffee. I usually go for a walk too, and then get some stuff done, hit the gym, and then hit my full on work day. And it also gives me a lot more time later in the day to do whatever I want. So
Fair enough. Now that um, regiment, I guess we could call it, um, is sort of antithetical to that rock and roll lifestyle. Was there a point
yeah.
in because you've been doing this for a little while now? Was there a point where you were living that rock and roll time, at least not necessarily the partying, but living by the clock of rock and roll shows that you went, oh, I have to stop. I got to really focus on regimenting my day for my own health and for my own productivity.
In a sense, I guess, because I've always believed in balance, right? So uh I think this is more in regards to touring and stuff like that, because when you're on tour, it's a totally different ball game. You finish a show and you're not going to bed in the tour bus till like 4 a.m.
Yeah.
because you're coming down. So bus call usually is until like 1 or 2 a.m. And you're so hyped from playing a big show or whatever that you get into the bus, you hang out with the crew and the guys or whoever, and you have a few beers, and then you go to bed. So
Right.
like they're usually late nights, and that's typical rock and roll lifestyle. Like these days, most people, they're thinking, oh, it's mountains of cocaine and everyone's partying, there's naked chicks everywhere. You know what it looks like on tour buses? You get there, you have a beer in your hand, and then the other hand is this, your
Yeah.
phone. you know and and it's a bunch of dudes doing that, you know. But yeah, you know what? It's like it is a different lifestyle when you're on tour versus when you're at home and recording or music or writing a new album with your band or whatever it may be, right? So but I found, for me anyways, I've just always had a good balance because I play drums, you know, as a perfectionist for the longest time. I'm not anymore, but it's not a good thing to be a perfectionist. But you know, I just always wanted to be on point in every stage of my career, whether it was at home writing, whether it was on the road and touring and playing in front of people around the world. I just always wanted to be on point. I wanted to be professional. And there's a crap load of people out there like me, you know, and then there's a ton who just want to party and do that too. And there's nothing wrong with that, to each their own, right? But for me, I've always kind of had that because, and I kind of, you know, give credit to that to my parents because they kind of taught me that as I was growing up, and it just, you know, bled into my adulthood, and I took it into my career, and you know what, it's made a good name for myself in the music business. So balance is important.
It's funny we should start off our chat with on this topic because I wanted to ask you. You posted on your socials, I want to say a year ago, your snare drum and how precise your hit is on that snare, and I remember looking at it and going, "Oh my God!" Now, is that precision? Does that precision go hand in hand with the work ethic you just spoke on, or is that something that was accidental to just being a precision player?
No, it's reflective of my personality. It's like that snare drum, that post, and I remember it very well, is you know, it's reflective of how I live my life. Be consistent. Just be consistent in your life, be consistent in your relationships, be consistent in your work habits, be consistent in your health, be consistent with your mental health. All these things, they attribute to living a great life. I think consistency is one of the most important things any human being can have, is just be consistent, you know. And the reason I posted that post a year ago was just to show people that yes, you know, it's being persistent, being consistent with what you do in your life. It pays off in so many various ways, right?
Right.
And I find it's a show of character too, right? You know, I believe action speaks a lot louder than words because there's a lot of talk out there. A lot of people talk. Kids, you know, lots of people took a lot from it. So that's what that whole post meant.
Nice. All right, so let's go back to the beginning. Ryan is X years old, sees his first drum kit, watches his first music video. You know, what was that catalyzing moment for you that made you look at the drums and go, "Yeah, that's what I want"?
Stuff, but then whenever they finish sound check, I'd jump up on stage and I'd be like, huh, this drum kit looks pretty badass. I can hit stuff, right? So I jump on there and start playing, and then my dad took notice, and he's like, and his drummer in his band is like, your son's got rhythm, man, you know. And dad asked me, he's like, do you want to play drums? I'm like, hell yeah. You know, I'd love to play drums, right? And that's when it all started. And you know, to take the story a little bit further, when I knew that I wanted to do what I'm doing now for a living, which is, you know, making a living off music, I was 12 years old. I started drumming at 10, which in today's standards is pretty late. But you know, I was 10 years old, and it's amazing how my parents introduced me to it because they taught me discipline. You know, when I started, dad said, okay, you're interested in drums? He came home from work, and I'm like, sweet, wonder what drum kit I'm gonna get, you know. Shows up with a practice pad.
Yeah.
And a book called Stick Control, which is the best book in the world for drumming. I teach all my students that.
Yeah.
And a pair of drumsticks. And you know what? He said, have at her. Here's your drum teacher. And man, I slaved over rudiments for a year. That's all I really did. Yeah. And then, you know, when I was 11, dad said he had a surprise. He came home, you know, in a truck. We didn't own a truck. So I'm like, oh, it's got to be the drum kit, right?
Right.
I'm like, what's he pull out first? The floor tom, you know, snare, what? And he pulls out a set of practice pads. Because back then, you know, we didn't even have electronic drum kits at that point when I was a kid, right? So, but you know what? I was like, it's awesome. It had bass drum, you know, snare and three toms. I could do my thing.
You
And
could.
so I practiced my ass off. And then come 12 years old, this is where it all happened. Christmas morning, you know, I was got up, Jason and I, my brother, you know, I'm 12 years old, he's 9, and you know, like kids do, you get up at 5 in the morning, you're not allowed to open any gifts, but you can get your stockings, you know. So we're going there, and this is a funny story. As we were walking, our bedrooms were on one side of the house, it's a rancher house, and then you know, you walk through the living room, and then you walk through the kitchen, and then and into the rec room. And we always had our Christmas tree set up in the living room, but for some reason this year they set it up in the rec room. So it was interesting. So Jason and I are walking through there. We get to the kitchen, just about to go into the rec room. We start hearing these noises, and it's like 5 in the morning. Mom and dad are sleeping. I'm, what the hell is that? And it sounded like someone was breaking into the house, right?
Oh boy. Okay.
On Christmas morning. Yeah, and we're kind of freaking out. And you know, what it was is dad left on music lately, Christmas music. And I
Okay.
think this song Silent Night or something, but it was bells or something going off in the beginning. And you know, it sounded like someone was tinkering in the rec room. And so, you know, being the brave big brother I am, I sent my little brother in to check out the scene. And you know, he comes running out of the rec room screaming. And I'm just like, oh shit, you know, this is like Jason from Friday the 13th is chasing my brother, you know, and you know, but it wasn't that. He screams, it's a drum kit, you know, and I'm just like, what? You know, throw him out of the way, I run in there. So my question to you,
Yeah.
what's a 12-year-old kid gonna do at 5 in the morning when he sees a drum kit?
Oh
His first
boy.
drum.
Well, if I had been in your shoes, I would have. Well, ADHD me would have just immediately pulled out a couple fills. But if I was,
Exactly what happened, man.
yeah,
You know, so parents come out, you know, they're just like, mom's yelling at dad, I told you you'd do this, you know, and dad big shitting and grin on his
right.
face going, yeah, you earned it, you know. But the bottom line is I got off that kid, I looked at my parents, I looked them in the eyes, and I said, when I grow up, I'm gonna be a rock star. What I meant is professional musician. I can't stand the term rock star. But I'm going to be a rock star. I'm going to tour the world. I'm going to be in Modern Drummer magazine. I got that magazine in my stocking every year. You know, I'm going to do all these things. And you know what? I've done it all. I've been in Modern Drummer. I've toured. I've played the biggest festivals. We've headlined shows at festivals. We've done arenas, been to Japan, Australia, Chile. Dude, you name it. You
Yeah.
know, right down to endorsements, signature drumsticks, all this stuff, right? But the bottom line is it's not the accolades, it's not what I've achieved, it's just that I'm doing what I love, and to be able to make a living off that, you know, I couldn't be any more grateful.
So, related to that, I have two questions related to that. My first is, what has been for you coming up when you were younger, coming up as a drummer? What has been one of the most humbling moments for you as a drummer, as a player, as a musician, and playing with the level of musicians that you do and that you have? How do you assert yourself without becoming a giant egotist within those dynamics? Because you
um
are very well recognized for your precision, for your playing ability, for your I mean, anyone who follows you on socials knows what a just humble and down to earth and positive person you are. But where did that humility come from?
um Upbringing for one.
That
um Parents were always, my mom's favorite quote is treat people the way you want to be treated. So to be egotistical to other people or say I'm better than you, look at me, I made it, you know, you didn't, you know, it was, that was, I was brought up that way. I had really good parenting from both my parents. But as far as a humbling experience, you know, one of them was, and it's funny, I haven't really been asked this question much, or, and it's a great question, or talked about this incident I'm about to tell you, but one of them was when I got my big break, it was with Devin Townsend, and he had the Devin Townsend band, and that only really lasted from 2002 to about 2007.
Right.
And then it disbanded, and he disbanded his other band, Strapping Young Lad, at the same time. And he wasn't sure what he was going to do. He's maybe just going to go full-time producing and not do music anymore, you know. And that was very humbling, because 5 years felt like 5 minutes, because you start touring, you're starting to build the name and all that stuff, and then bam, it's gone. And you know, we're all still friends and stuff, and we'd still jam and whatnot, but there was a 2 year break where there was nothing.
Right.
And I was just like, wow, you know, that might be it. And you know, I built a name for myself, but over that time, you know, I hadn't gotten a modern drummer, I hadn't done any big stuff, because Devin Townsend band played pretty small gigs. But you know, I was just like grateful for the experience and whatnot, but really wanted to get back out there. So I did a solo album. I kind of started my own thing, joined a couple other bands. You know, nothing took off. But then a couple years later, you know, Devin said, listen, you know, there's these 4 records that I want to do. I actually suggested the 4 records to him because he had a bunch of music. I said, this sounds like 4 different albums. And he said, well, yeah, I want to record all 4 different things, which he did. And he called it the Devin Townsend Project, but he wanted a drummer that could tour it all with him. And I recorded 3 out of the 4 records. And it was supposed to be a big project, but it ended up turning into a band.
Right.
And I remember when we started touring, we recorded the first album, Addicted, in 2009, and started touring in January of 2010. And I'll never forget how humbled I was at that point, going, okay, this is your second chance. Enjoy every second, every minute,
Okay.
and realize that, you know, this could end at any time, which it did in 2018.
Right.
You know, and you know, I was his drummer, and the 2 years off, we were still playing together and writing and doing stuff. So, but you know, I was his drummer for 16 years, right? But that moment, I remember on tour, I took in everything. When, you know, I was the first off the bus in the morning, looking at all the different cities, camera pictures, just everything. Like, I soaked it all up, man. I was very humbled when DTP started, because I was like, you just never know,
Right.
right? When it did end, I was extremely grateful. You know, lots of, you know, obviously it sucks because the band's over, but I was grateful. I wasn't mad. I wasn't disappointed. And we all knew Devin was going to pull the plug at some point, you know, and I was just grateful for it and humbled by it all. And I have a phenomenal career because of it all. But that was a turning point for me, because it changed my whole outlook, and the fact that, you know, hey, nothing's forever, right? So it humbled me in a big way, in a very positive way.
Right.
And I feel that experience really helped shape my name and my career moving forward, and I was able to accomplish amazing things in that time. So it
Right.
was awesome. And you know, as of today, it set me up. I'm get tons of session work all over the world, students all over the world. I'm doing another drum clinic at the end of the year. It's like I still have tons of stuff, and now I'm opening myself up to touring with another big act or whatever, right? So it's far from done, but that was very humbling in itself.
Now, did that humbling experience, how does that translate into you as a teacher? And do you try to impart those same values into your students, or do you focus primarily just on the rudiments of being a drummer itself?
No, you nailed it. I 100% try to focus on both the values and teaching my students that through drumming.
Okay.
So they're learning at the same time, but they're equally being educated on the values of life, you know, and work ethic, consistency, being persistent and persevering with whatever it is you want to do in your life. I teach these lessons to all my students. And you know, my one student I was teaching just a week ago, his name's Logan, and cool kid, man, wicked drummer. He's just, you know, he's got it all. He loves hockey. He goes, oh, I would really love to be a hockey player, professional hockey player, but at the same time it'd really be cool to do drums, but I can't do both. And I was like, why can't you do both? Why can't you be the first professional hockey player who's also in a famous band?
Yeah.
You know, I can't think of one that is. So why don't you be that guy?
Why don't you be that
And
guy?
then I explained to him, I said, listen, man, I said, life is what you make it. That's my Opa's quote. That it's not his quote, it's someone else's, but Opa, my Opa, grandfather in Dutch, he always said that. And it's so true. Life is what you make it. An event plus your reaction to it will always equal your outcome. And that's a quote that I've never, ever forgotten, you know, and it's very true. And that's how you make your life. And so with Logan, I explained all this to him. You know, he's a young kid. He's 8 years old, so I have to be careful with how I explain it. But he got it, and his like he was wide-eyed, going, "You're right." And I said, "You want to know something that's cool, Logan? Is when people say something's impossible. Even the word impossible has the words I'm possible."
Yeah.
You know, and I love that quote. I believe it's Judy Garland. Beautiful quote, and it's so true. So world records are being broken all the time. Oh, they're not going to break that speed track record, and then it's broken a year later.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, this is the thing, man. So I do include this with all my students. And the beautiful thing, why I know it works, is I've had several parents over the years come up to me going, what are you teaching my kid? Because he is so darn positive. His grades have gotten better. I've had some really cool success stories, and that's not what I'm intending to do, but that's how it spills over into their own personal lives, and they believe in themselves, right? So it's a beautiful thing, man. It's paying it forward, I guess.
Right. The Zen state achieved through drumming can be reflected through the rest of your life. Okay, so one more question about the humility thing. Does that keep you from being able to be able to listen to yourself, to go back to rehearsal tracks, and can you, when you listen to a flub you might make here, a missed note there, does that discourage you, or does that just fuel the fire to keep you going?
The easiest way to answer that, and I'll obviously go into depth more, but failure is your greatest teacher.
Okay.
You'd be absolutely crazy to listen to mistakes, get pissed off, walk away, and not learn anything from it. Okay. It's the dumbest thing any human being can do. And unfortunately, a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
Because, you know, and the perfectionism in me at my younger age, that got the better of me, because I did walk away sometimes frustrated and wouldn't learn the lesson. I just keep on practicing, but I wouldn't learn the lesson. So I'd keep repeating the mistakes. You know, one of the dumbest things you could do is keep repeating something that doesn't work. You know, right. So it's like, you know, when it comes down to it, when I make mistakes, not just in drumming, but in life, in relationships, at work, you know, it's funny. I never really call what I do work. Feels like I haven't worked the past 20 years with my career, right? But right. You know, it's like whenever a mistake happens, I just sit back. First thing you do is I take accountability. I'm like, okay, I messed up, but how can I fix this? How can I be better? And that's the next thing that I look at. And then I implement. Like I say, I take action. I don't just go, oh, okay, that's why it happened. I'll remember that next time. No, it's like get back on the horse and you go for it again. You know, but that's how I approach it for sure. It's like I always learn from my mistakes. And you know what? Sometimes it takes a couple times. Sometimes you think you have it and you screw up again, right?
Right.
But the whole point is recognizing and implementing.
Gotcha. Well, Ryan, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I know you've got a very busy schedule. I just wanted to say thank you again, and thank you for all the wonderful music you've brought into my life, and at least in the periphery, bringing a lot of lessons in positivity. Everyone should follow your socials. Give us your resume, give us your socials, and of course, I'll apply links down below. And I can't thank you enough for taking the time today.
Oh, it was my pleasure. I love doing stuff like this, and I think it's great that you're doing interviews like this, you know, because it helps spread a positive word. And
Right.
you know what? You can't get enough of that in this world, you
I
know.
think,
So
thank you.
awesome. It was a pleasure, and thank you for doing it.
No problem.
Yeah.
Your
Are we good?
socials, the positivity of that you put out there. Where can people find
Yeah.
you? What work do you want to direct people to coming up?
Yeah. So socials, Instagram and Facebook. Those
Okay.
are the main ones. I do post on Threads and X, formerly Twitter.
Yeah.
You post on that once in a while, but those ones especially. And you know, as far as work coming up, I'm recording 3 different projects so far this year. One of them's special that I can't talk about, but the other are just 2 albums for artists. And then you know, worldwide teaching. If anyone's interested in online lessons, I'm pretty much fully booked right now. I can maybe fit one more student, but I do teach online worldwide, and you just contact me through my socials there. I do have a drum clinic that I'm in talks about doing and headlining at the end of the year. And I'm also looking to get my motivational seminars back on track as well, because I did those all around the world when I toured. So I'm in talks with some people about that too. So like, I got a ton of stuff going on. 2024 is shaping up to be one hell of a year for me. It's going to be awesome.
That's
So
fantastic.
lots of great things coming down the line. If anyone ever wants to reach out, the people who support and follow me are phenomenal. Awesome. I love them all. And you can always reach out to me on my socials, and I always try to reply. And yeah, it's a good thing. I'm very grateful for it all.
And that gratitude is, I hope you feel it being returned from me. I cannot say thank you enough for taking the time today, and all the success that you've had couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Thank you so much, Ryan.
Thank you. I appreciate it very
Oh,
much.
not at all. I will see you in Southern Ontario some point, hopefully before the year is out. All right.
Yep.
That's fantastic.
Sounds good.
Thanks again.
Okay.
Have a wonderful day.
You as well.
All right.
Take her easy. Bye-bye.
Bye now.